From AmeriVet Securities, a service-disabled, veteran-owned broker-dealer in New York City, we bring you Compass Check, a podcast created by veterans for veterans. The military uses a compass to navigate air, land, and sea. Now, Compass Check is here to help you navigate your transition into the corporate workforce. Our goal is to reach military veterans and members of the veteran community, empower and connect them with a multitude of resources that will ultimately set them up for success after leaving the military. I'm your host, Army veteran James Fitzgerald. Let's get moving. The Mission Continues, also called TMC, is a nonprofit organization that connects military veterans with opportunities to continue service within their community alongside nonprofit organizations and local leaders, serving as a catalyst for purpose-driven action throughout the country. TMC utilizes a nationwide network of service platoons, uniting teams of volunteer veterans with community leaders that mobilize together to address a specific challenge in their community. TMC prepares veterans to lead tangible impact in their communities through a complement of rigorous programs that teach leadership skills, including community-based leadership methods, cultural competence, effective communication, and project management. These invaluable skills are infused into every TMC program and empower service-centric veterans with the skills necessary to contribute to their country in a new, innovative way. My guest today is Mary Beth Bruggeman, president of The Mission Continues. Here's our conversation. Charlie Mike, today I have Mary Beth here today from The Mission Continues to join us on this leg of our race to tell us how we can best employ all the skills that we gained during our military service as we transition out and into the corporate workforce. How can we utilize all this? Mary Beth, please, you have all the answers. Thank you for joining me today to instruct on how TMC is giving you the answers to the test.
Well, hi, James. It's wonderful to be here with you today. I can't wait to provide all the answers to all the things. And looking forward to getting into it. Charlie Mike.
I have no doubt that you do this on a day-to-day basis. As the president of The Mission Continues, what has been great for me since transitioning out of the Army in 2014, I've been able to experience quite a bit. And I've had the help of great mentors, great community leaders, great veteran serving organizations that have allowed me to enter in a lot of these rooms that I normally wouldn't be welcomed in. But to always remember where you started. The mission continues for me. Being a part of the Bronx Service Platoon, it's been one of the things near and dear to my heart. So I'm overjoyed to have you here today so I can introduce this to our audience today so they can learn more about Mission Continues. So I'll stop being sappy and crying and asking everyone if they're at a drama at the theater. But to kick us off and to paint the picture, the Mission Continues is a national veteran serving organization. What I'd like now is that superhero origin story. You have donned the cape this week for our listening audience. Please provide us that background story.
Sure. I don't know about the cape, but I'll try to keep it humble here. So we're a 15-year-old organization, if you can believe it. We're celebrating our 15th birthday in August this year. And founded by a veteran who came home from serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. And in talking to other veterans, other military service members who were recovering from wounds that they had incurred overseas, what he learned was he was blown away by these conversations he was having with service members and asking them, what is it that you want to do next? You're home, you're wounded, something happened. Like, what's your plan? And most of them were saying, well, I want to go right back to my unit. I don't want to be here anymore in the hospital. I'm ready to get back out and serve. Knowing that that wasn't the reality for most of them, they wouldn't go back to their units. He asked, but what do you want to do next? What's next for you if the military is not an option anymore? And every single one of them said, I just want to continue to be needed. I want to be useful. I want to give back. I want to continue to have some purpose in my life. And so 15 years ago, he set out to create what was the first Mission Continues program, our fellowship program. And through all of our programmatic evolutions, all of what has stayed true is our mission of connecting veterans with opportunities to continue their service once they're home. So they leave the military service, and so many veterans are looking for a place to put their purpose. They're looking for a
Mhm.
place to, as you said in the intro, to take the skills and the experience that they've gained through their military service and repurpose them here at home, and they don't always know how to do that or where to direct that energy. And so we're helping to create those opportunities in the communities that need them most, and connecting the two. We've got a ready-made solution of a country full of military veterans who are eager to serve, and a country full of communities that are eager to work alongside veterans and have the infusion of resources that we can bring.
That service component is something that I don't believe the general public really truly understands the power behind. Veterans will be volunteering not just in their community, but in whatever aspect they can get their hands on. They're volunteering at higher rates than their civilian components,
Mhm.
providing a service in some capacity in their professional lives. There are so many tools that our military provides in order for us to be the best at our job. When we get out, we still have all those knowledge and skills. It's how best, as you had mentioned, how best to repurpose them in our new position in our community near you. What I'd like to paint for the audience, when I initially went to my first the Miss Continues event, or my first Miss Continues event, I was introduced to so many different veterans, but what made it so beautiful? I just transitioned out. I was so raw to the world, but being introduced to something familiar, like a platoon, a uniform where
Mhm.
everyone looks the same, it provides a breakdown of barriers. And I'm talking to so many individuals, and what I didn't realize is I'd ended up talking to many of the TMC staff without even realizing there were no name tapes. We were all working on this service project together, building this park, and just gave me an opportunity to connect with people without wondering who they are, where they're coming from, what they do for work. It was the bonding that the military provided us because we were all in the same uniform with a focused mission. Expanding on the other programs that TMC has available to veterans of all service eras across the country, there's a variety of different ways that people can connect. And I've just mentioned these service platoons, but I'd also like to mention the Service Leadership Corps. Um, that was, I think, a transition from what I went through when I did the fellowship program back in 2017, where you were placed inside of a nonprofit of your choice that was able to give you an opportunity to pursue your passions to serve whatever that industry is providing access to, but also TMC backing. You have support.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
I'd like to, give you an opportunity to talk about some of the other programming that is available, um, and like what that entails.
Sure. So as we've grown over the last 15 years, what's become very clear to us is that our service platoon network is really the heartbeat of the Mission Continues. So it's our greatest opportunity to scale. We can reach ideally every community at some point through our service platoon program and the 18 million veterans living in this country. We could reach all of them through a program like that. It's just got that ability to scale.
Mhm.
Now, with that, we've got a network of veterans who are serving within those service platoons, some in leadership roles, some as episodic volunteers even, and some as consistent. They're just at every project, but they may not have stepped up to lead the service platoon itself. But all of them look to the Mission Continues for continued leadership development of some kind. So, in recognizing that and understanding that's a lot of what the fellowship program was, we have created essentially, if we use military terminology, something familiar for us, a schoolhouse
Oh,
where our veterans can go to learn and upskill and gain those additional tools and skills and techniques and resources that they might need to come back and serve even more effectively in those service platoons. And we call that schoolhouse our Veteran Leadership Accelerator, or the
oh,
Accelerator.
wow.
And within that leadership development, that schoolhouse umbrella, we have our Service Leadership Corps, our Women Veterans Leadership Program, and then our mass deployment program, and then our newest offering, which is called Leading for All, which is an inclusive leadership intensive, which is a pilot program. The Service Leadership Corps is our training ground for platoon leadership. So this is where veterans come to take those, again, the skills that they have from the military and retool them a little bit so that we can help them rethink leadership and expand their understanding of leadership. We really have one way of leading in the military: from the front, follow
Yeah,
me. I'm going to
yeah,
charge the hill. I expect to see you coming up behind me.
yeah.
And that's kind of the standard. That's not effective when you're leading in communities. So especially when you're coming oftentimes from outside the community and you want to be able to bring resources into a community, you cannot just stand in front of them with a cape or parachute in and
Mm.
say, I'm here now. I'm here to save the community. That is completely ineffective, and you'll lose trust so fast you'll never have an opportunity to make any kind of impact. So we help veterans retool so that they learn how to adjust their leadership style to lead from the sides, from within, from behind even,
Oh, I
and
like
allow
that.
communities to take the lead, knowing that the veterans are still contributing their leadership skills, even understanding that we want the community's vision to be forefront and center for us as these veterans get out and seek to make an impact. um, so it's a tremendous program, and I think veterans gain a lot from it, and it translates through their work and life and all of the experiences they have, because it's just broadening their understanding of what leadership is.
This entire podcast is focused on helping transitioning service members and their families get the resources and connections to organizations as they leave and enter the corporate workforce. And I am that testimony that is available to everyone listening. There was so much more that my heart needed, my mind and my spirit, as I was entering the workforce. I had the 9 to 5 job. I was making a living, quote unquote, as I was supposed to, but there was something missing. And
Mhm.
it took me a while to figure that out. I didn't feel satisfied when I went to sleep at night. That first service project after we left, I was exhausted.
Yeah. And real
We
bone tired,
yeah,
right? Yep.
in, in a way that I hadn't been tired in a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
I remember details. It's like this is a detail, and those who've been a part of that enlisted portion of life where you're doing a detail that's backbreaking, and you finish, then you all go and get something to eat, and just that community strengthens.
Yeah.
After the project, we went to eat, and I got home and I laid down and I remembered it's like, ah, that's what it was. I needed that fulfillment inside to let me know that the energy that I was exerting had a purpose. It was building something, something I can go back to. And I can still go back there today. That is so much of the beauty. And I don't want to be selfish and keep this to myself. The contact information that I have, miscontinues.org, a lot of the information, or all of it, I'm sorry, all of it is available on the website. We're we're going to talk more, but just if there's anything else you'd like to provide in terms of social media handles or anything in that respect to get in touch with TMC, please.
Yeah, well, the website's a great place to start, you're right, and I think our social handles are all on the website too. But we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, slowly moving into TikTok, I think.
Oh,
LinkedIn, you can find us in all those spots. Most of our handles are something like at Mission Continues or at the Mission Continues. Hashtag Charlie Mike is another place to search for fantastic stories. But it's yeah, I mean, I love your story, and I just appreciate the authenticity of what the Mission Continues has meant and done for you. Um, Not nearly as much as you have done for communities. I mean, I think that's the thing that makes you so bone tired at the end of the day. It's almost like a cleanse for your soul. You know, the not only the familiarity of serving alongside people who literally speak your language. You know, your Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard
absolutely. Roger
terminology.
that.
That's right. Yeah, Charlie Mike, all the things. But also that feeling of having that purpose again and feeling like you've really accomplished something very meaningful. And what's great for your listeners too is that it translates. It doesn't only impact you when you're out serving in a community, it reminds you of all that you're capable of. So, in that 4 hour span, when you're working on a service project alongside people you remember, I refer to it often as like we're just trying to wake something up in you again. It's something
Hmm.
awake and alive when you served in the military. You had this connection to something much bigger than yourself. Most times, and this is not true for everybody, but most times you're surrounded by people who were like a tribe for you, a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a family. We leave the military, and in an instant, all of that is gone. All of it is just gone. Like it's just you're wearing the uniform 1 minute, and the next minute your uniform's on a shelf, and your purpose is sitting right next to it, and your
Yep.
tribe is gone because they've moved on to something else, and you're off here floating in the wind. And that is just a time when finding that bridge to the familiar, finding a service platoon, something that feels familiar and um, consistent with your experience, it'll wake that piece of you up again, and it stays awake when you go to work. It stays awake when you come home to your family, and it will help you just build out that whole person that again, it's just hard to
Yep.
rediscover that as a civilian.
You get excited to tell people about the things that you're doing. And on the other side of that, and I think it is a vital component, my accent may have given me away to a lot of the listeners. I am not originally from New York. I'm from Tennessee in a very small town. Bouncing off that point, when I was doing service projects in the Bronx, not only was I getting that connection to something tangible as we're building something, the community was stopping.
Yeah.
Members of the community come, hey, who are you? What are you doing? Oh, that's cool. You're veterans. There were so many ways that I was being connected to a community that I had no fathomable idea how to approach. And it's like,
Yeah.
I said it so many times, but like seeing it in action, I guess really knocked me out of my fog. But service is the quickest way to connect you to the world. And it
Totally.
really, like the world came to us and they opened up their arms and said, thank you for this. And the full circle for me was seeing some of those community members come back. And
Yep.
then they're, oh, you got some more of those shirts. Can we help out? And it's just like, this is how it works.
Well, and it might be like the last sacred place in our country where you can be surrounded by people who are so different from you, who may think differently than you, they may vote differently than you, they may approach things differently, have
Yeah.
completely different backgrounds, but you can come together around something that you agree on and achieve something together because what you're working on is so much bigger than your differences. The things that bind you
Oh,
together is so much
yeah.
bigger than that. It's a bridge across this
Yeah.
what feels like a widening divide in our country.
Well, let's bring that divide a little bit closer. You just gave the perfect segue to move into our second segment, which is there are so many things that we agree on that we know are meaningful that need to be done. And like I'm going to point out some of the more specific programming that TMC has going on that is a rock star when it comes to helping those transitioning veterans and their families find that purpose, that connection to the community. The Women Veteran Leadership Program, understanding that women veterans are the growest segment or the largest growing segment of our veteran community, but also the largest growing segment of our active duty component as well. We, as a society, must understand how we connect with these individuals and provide that opportunity for us to get to know what can we do better, how can we improve, how can we enhance together. I want you to just talk about some of the purpose, the mission, and any of the highlights that you've gotten from the Women Veteran Leadership Program. And then we'll move on to some of the other ones, but this one is key. And I wanted to start with this one. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to pump your brakes on me on this one because I could go on forever, but
Mm,
I'll watch for your high sign. So women have a different experience. If I'm going to speak in generalizations, women typically have a different experience in the military than their male counterparts. This is what we hear from them. And our network is about 40% women of our veterans. About 40% of them are women. So we have a significant overrepresentation as compared to the veteran population overall, where it's about 11% women.
mm,
So what we hear from them and what they say completely consistently across the board is that they don't have the same inclusive experience in the military that men tend to find. They don't always have that same tribe. They experience it to some degree, but they don't find it in the way that they had hoped to, or again that the men to their left and right might. When they leave the military, their transition experience is also very different. Women are much less likely to self identify as veterans. They
mm,
don't connect their experience as easily to the veteran experience because we have painted in this country such a we've painted a picture of what it means and looks like to be a veteran in this country through Hollywood, through media, through the majority, frankly, of the military population. Women don't see themselves in that. So the really significant downstream impact of that is that women feel less like veterans.
mm,
Um, and that's dangerous because then they're less likely to access resources as veterans. They're less likely to connect with other veterans, and they're less likely to be a part of organizations that are veteran organizations because they don't immediately see themselves as included in that in that group, and don't and then it's often backed up by going and being a part of even some of the older veteran service organizations, and then immediately feeling excluded once they're in the room because they're the only woman, and they're probably tired of that experience after their time in the military. So we've created a program, the Women Veterans Leadership Program, that is designed to help women break free of that. It's designed to help them transition into the civilian world and, first of all, surround themselves by a network of women who completely understand and recognize their experience.
mm.
It's familiar and it's common, and that's a very comforting feeling to know that I'm not doing this all alone. I do not have to forge this alone. And we help them gain the skills that they'll benefit from in this country as they are working in and living in male dominated spaces, and developing some of the unique communication skills and some of the unique leadership skills that women really benefit from in order to be on par with their male peers. It takes an additional investment for women in this country to reach the same levels of leadership on their own. We're not helping them get there. I mean, women are held back in so many ways in this country, and so the program is designed specifically for women veterans to help break through some of that and even the playing field. One of the most important things we do in the program is help women break down some of the layers that we put on as women in the military. So, to cover up our own authentic selves so that
Hmm.
we will better fit in what we see as the mold of what you're supposed to look like and behave like in order to be successful in the military. That those are layers that we put on top of our identity. When we leave the military, you have to go through a process of removing those layers to get back to who you are and what makes you so powerful in your own authentic leadership style. So we're helping those women like identify that and
Wow.
like peel back those layers.
I don't want to pump the brakes. I want to take it up a notch
Yeah.
and shift gears. The Service Leadership Corps that was mentioned earlier, I would love to hear more details. I'm jumping out of my skin with excitement just speaking with you today because just remembering the fire that burns each and every single time that you're presented with a service project or presented with an opportunity to network, whether in your home city or someplace else, it was always an experience. Like you're learning something, but the people that were in the room with you, it just made it special. So everything that you're saying about women veterans and needing that additional investment makes perfect sense. I speak constantly about the mentorship and the lack thereof that happens as you transition out. I can only imagine the disparity that comes with women service members as they're leaving. They have a multitude of circumstances, single mothers, dual serving families, like a multitude of situations that maybe it's best to hear this from someone else with a similar lived experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And again, it just helps them feel less alone. And some of the resources are things women need to hear and understand, particularly from women, or at least from folks who have some real competence around women. Women's access to healthcare is not the same as it is for male counterparts, particularly if we're talking about their VA healthcare. The VA is working hard on this. They've been great partners to us and to other organizations, but they know that they're behind. They're not trusted by women in the same way they are by men, and they've got a real gap to close. So women are trying to climb through that hurdle. They're trying to climb over that hurdle as well. It's just a lot to
Yeah.
manage. It's a lot
There,
to manage.
there are so many women veterans and women service members that are Olympic level athletes, as many hurdles as they've had to leap over just to get the basic level treatment. It's frustrating, but as I say time and time again, and I will continuously beat this drum, should not be only the impacted community that's carrying the weight and forcing change. I stand next to you in this struggle, in this fight for change, because this is what like we all signed up for.
Yeah.
This is yeah. I'm going to step off my soapbox and put that away because this is exciting times. We're talking about deployments with active duty service members, but now we're going to shift it slightly and talk about some mass deployments with some veterans. I think
Yeah.
this has been a phenomenal addition to TMC programming. I wish I could have participated, but the standards are very high. And yeah, I've never been selected, but like no harm, no foul. I understand. I have my faults,
Feeling really
but
bad about that right now, James.
no, not at all. I would sit in my shower crying, looking at the amazing pictures that were all over social media of just these incredible occasions where individuals are selected, they're brought out for a week long service project in a community with this broad, like Operation Order Mission. Everything was incredible from the moment I heard about it. I'm going to give you some time to talk a little bit more about it, but know that we're quickly going to move into our double time segment where I'm going to put you on the spot about these mass deployments. But like before we move into that, tell me a little bit more about them.
Yeah, mass deployment is the coolest thing. It really is, and you're gonna get an invitation with like doves that fly out of it
Oh
here.
my
So,
God.
but this year we're gonna be in Chicago for Operation Chi-Town Salute in August. But it's so we essentially take the best parts of a military deployment, the mission, the really hyper focus on a mission, the intense team, the hard work that at the end of the day, you just pour yourself into the rack at the end of it. And you get up the next day and do it all again and you patch your blisters and move on. Like the stuff we really remember from a deployment. And of course, we leave behind the things that we don't want to remember from military deployments. We feed them better, we house them better, and
Oh,
they're not in any
oh,
physical danger while they're there. Um, but it's a
there's
really
that.
tremendous experience to just have this like intensely connected experience that by creating that connection and that team, then once we point them, again, like you take this like ball of energy and then you point them in the direction of the south side of Chicago and help them turn them loose in partnership with these community partners. And it is unbelievable what these veterans can accomplish over the course of 4 or 5 days of these really high scale, large scale service projects in a community. It's just the coolest thing.
That that was the beautiful part, but also seeing my TMC family back here in New York. We had our platoons. We were all close knit and tied. Like I thought we were on a higher level until they went on a mass deployment. Then they forgot about me because those bonds that were built over that week were just incredible. Some of them were traveling across the country to like go to the next one. It was mind-boggling, and it's only mind-boggling for me to an extent because I haven't been able to experience it yet. I want it because just seeing those other individuals take part in it, I haven't even taken the time to mention. Not only are you able to showcase the skills and tools learned during your military service, but if you happen to be a professional in your civilian life, a plumber, an electrician, an engineer, something that could be useful to that project, another opportunity arises for you to bridge that gap. Maybe not in the world as a whole, but inside of yourself. You're bridging that
Yeah,
military and civilian divide, and you're able to transition that much easier from Sergeant Fitzgerald to James.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And holding on to that part of you, holding on to Sergeant Fitzgerald, but evolving into James, I think is we don't want to leave behind the sergeant. We don't want to ditch it or have it end. We just have to layer on our civilian identity as well. The Mission Continues logo, which you can sort of see on my shirt here,
Hmm.
it marries an eagle and a dove. And so the dove pointing up towards your future of national service here at home, the eagle pointing down as like your history and your past of military service. But there's a purpose to the logo. It brings both together, and the two become one. I mean, in the middle, they're not
Yeah,
distinct in our logo. They really are two sides of the same part of your identity. So, it is about
absolutely.
bridging. That's exactly the right word. It's about bridging to your bigger self.
This is just a funny uh, thing that ran through my mind just now when you're describing the logo. I can only imagine how many times you've been asked, probably hundreds of thousands, but just as you wear Miscontinues gear, you walk through these areas and people will just generally stop you. It's like very inquisitive. What's the mission?
Yeah.
I was always excited for that type of question. It's like the community decides what the mission is. You tell me, how can I be useful? How can I be of use to you inside of your home? Can I, mow your lawn? Maybe that's the mission. Charlie Mike, the mission will continue. What is it? Those were always exciting questions, but I can only imagine how many times that it's just been posed to you. It's like, oh, hello, what's the mission? It's like, oh,
I love it.
oh.
No, I'm like you. I wear my swag proudly all over because I want people to ask that question, because the more folks that know about this and have an opportunity to be a part of it, the more impact we can have.
With that, we're going to move into the last segment, our double
Yeah.
time. It's our lightning round. We've been talking about these mass deployments. I'm going to have two for our double time segment today. If you can give me one anecdote from, I think, the Motown Muster that was in Detroit. That was an incredible one. A lot of my friends were a part of that one. If you can just give me a story, give me a highlight, give me something, an outcome from that mass deployment.
Sure. So it's funny. I just got a message from one of our alumni who this week who had a memory pop up in Facebook of, "Hey,
Mm.
remember Mary Beth when we were back at mass deployment,
Oh,
building a bus stop shelter together with a World War II veteran."
yeah.
And it was the coolest thing. Like there was a group of maybe seven of us, about half Mission Continues, half community members, and including a World War II veteran
Mm.
who was out there mostly testing out the bus stop, but also helping us build a little bit, giving some direction. But we were able to build this bus stop shelter on a like blazing hot day, 105 degrees in Detroit
Mm.
in June of whatever it was, 2016. And at the end of that, what it became was a community gathering spot for this neighborhood. There was no shade. I mean, there was literally no shade. So
Mm-hmm.
the folks who were taking the public bus in order to get to work or to the grocery store or wherever they were going, they were they had to be so uncomfortable waiting for that bus. And what we provided was just an opportunity for them to sit and talk to their neighbors. And this is what we heard from the community: is this is what you're giving us, is a gathering place, and a place
Mm,
where every time we sit down, we remember that somebody is invested in this community. And we remember every time we sit down that those people that are invested are veterans. They came home from serving in the military. And instead of resting from their labor and instead of collecting their benefits or their accolades or their free NFL tickets, they got up,
mm,
put their packs back on, and came out here to serve in our community in Detroit at Central High School, and and put up this incredible bus stop that seems like such a simple add to a community, but to community members what it means is that somebody really cares and
mm.
they don't forget that those are military veterans who are continuing their service.
Boom. Um, Give me one more from Los
Oh,
Angeles.
say
What is that?
Atlanta, say Atlanta, say Atlanta. That's my favorite.
Atlanta? Atlanta? Okay, I'm gonna go with Atlanta. Hot
Okay, cool.
Atlanta.
Yeah, I have a great, like, one of my favorite memories from the Mission Continues was a day on our Atlanta mass deployment where we were laying sod in this big
Mm,
field, this big park that we created a park out of a dirt patch. So it was right along the Atlanta Beltway there, and we were laying sod, and it was one of those hot Atlanta summer days where in the afternoon we saw gray clouds and threatening storms, and then
mm.
like the heavens just opened up and I mean,
Oh
torrential
yeah.
downpour, lightning and thunder, and we're like hauling to try to get all this done and all this sod laid. And instead of saying, we're packing up, this is uncomfortable, we're wet, we're chafing, like this is horrible, we were so filled with energy out there that we just laid the sod faster and faster. And we were laughing, we were singing, we had so much fun. But here's the coolest thing of it: the rain cleared. We finished laying all of the sod. It was a great, amazing 45 minutes during that time of the storm. And then a neighbor came out. And as we were doing our final Charlie Mike for the day, our hands in the middle, let's celebrate what we've accomplished. One of the neighbors came out and said, and interrupted our circle and said, "Hey, I was standing on my porch during that rainstorm. And I thought for sure that just like everybody else who comes to serve in my neighborhood from outside, that you were going to pack up and
Mm,
leave as soon as it got hard. And when you stayed, what I did was I changed my shirt into one that was like a work shirt. And I came out, and I don't know if you noticed, but I was in the back laying sod with you for the end of that. And he joined us in the rain, in the torrential downpour, in the
mm.
thunder and lightning. This neighbor came off of his porch and said, "If they can do it, if they can come into my community and serve through this, and if this is fun for them, I want to be a part of that group." And I will never forget that, because that's the kind of impact we can have even in a moment in a community, that if we're able to inspire other people to see how invested we are in their community, and if that inspires in them a hopefulness and a kind of trust that allows us to come back and do more, mission accomplished. I mean, what an incredible
Yeah.
opportunity.
I, I had goosebumps as you were telling that story. And then I also thought about Ranger School, and it's like, well, if it's not raining, we're not training.
Not training, that's right.
E- Everything about that was phenomenal. It's exactly what my heart and spirit needed during this conversation with you. Thank you, Mary Beth. I know my listening and my viewing audience is just in awe, not only of the Mission Continues, but of everything else that you've been able to accomplish in your time on this planet. We thank you, not just for the things that you purposely do, but also for setting the example for so many others to know that things will get better. And if it's not me that's actually doing it, I know that there are other people that are in my community. Help is on the way. Charlie Mike. It's things like that that warm my heart and make this part of my job so fulfilling. With that, though, I do have to mention to everyone, missioncontinues.org. There is going to be an upcoming mass deployment to the Windy City. Please check out the social media platforms for TMC: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. check it out because you don't want to miss this. This is going to be something that you can check out because you're going to want to take part in the next one. But until that point, Mary Beth, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day to join me and talk about some of the things that the Michigan TU has available for transitioning service members and their family as they leave active duty service, transitioning into the corporate workforce. Thank you so much.
Oh, James, thanks so much for having me. I was really a pleasure to be invited, and so great to see you again and reconnect. And thank you for choosing the Mission Continues as your bridge out of the military. We're really grateful to have you counted as one of our alumni.
I guess the only way I can close this is by saying, Charlie Mike.
Charlie Mike, yes, thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Compass Check. I've been your host, James Fitzgerald. Join me next time when my guest will be Christine Schwartz, CEO of Service to School.